JinPingMei Original Version Chapter 41. Two children get married and laugh and play together. The two beauties are deeply angry and bitter. It is said that Simon King is at home and the tailor is making clothes. It will be over in 2 days. On the 12th, the Kiao family sent an invitation. In the morning, Simon King sent gifts first. That day, Yun Young, her sisters, and the eldest daughter-in-law got up in 6 sedan chairs. Sun Zui was left to look after the house. Nanny Ryer held Brother Guan in her arms and ordered Lake Sing's daughter-in-law Huixu to fold clothes and carry 2 small sedan chairs. Simon King was at home, watching by ask a gardener to tie up the fireworks, hang lights in the hall and rolling shed, and have the servant take a post to the prince's residence to book a performer. Needless to say, in the afternoon, I walked to the Golden Lotus room. Jinlian was not at home, but Chunmai was waiting for tea and rice, setting the table for wine. Simon King Yan said to Chunmai on the 14th, "We will invite all the officials and ladies. It will be a good thing for all 4 of you to dress up and go out, and you and your mother will serve you wine." After hearing this, Chunmai leaned against the table and said, "If you scream, just ask the 3 of them to go out." "I won't go out," Simon King asked. "Why don't you go out?" Chunmai said, "The ladies have all made new clothes, and it will look good to accompany the ladies of the officials. We are just like burning the papers one by one, going out to make others laugh for no reason." Simon King said, "You all have your own clothes, jewelry, pearls and flowers." Chunmai said, "I just wear it on my head. I have these 2 old pieces on my body. How can I wear them to meet people? I'm really embarrassed." Simon King smiled and said, "I know you little oily boy, but you got angry when you saw your ladies making clothes. No worries, call Mr. Zhao here. Even the eldest sister will take 4 of you, and each of you will cut 3 pieces. A set of satin clothes and a brocade armor," Chunmai said. "I don't want to compete with him. I also ask you for a white silk jacket to match with the bright red brocade armor." Simon King said, "If you don't worry about it, I can also make one with your eldest sister." Chunmai said, "The big girl only has one thing, but I don't have one, and he can't say that either." Simon King then took the key and opened the door of the building. He picked out 5 sets of satin clothes, 2 sets of brocade jackets, and 2 pairs of white damask jackets cut from 1 piece of white damask. But the eldest sister and Chunmai are decorated with bright red brocade, yingxun, jade flute, and orchid fragrance, all in blue and green colors. Their clothes are bright red satin, gold, woven jackets, and emerald blue skirts, a total of 17 pieces. At the same time, he called Mr. Zhao and found that everything was ready to be cut. "I also need a piece of yellow gauze to make the waistband of the skirt, and the lining is all made of Hangzhou silk." Chunmai just fell in love with her, and she accompanied Simon King to spend the whole day drinking and joking round in the house. Let's talk about Wu Yunyang's sisters arriving at Kiao Da's house. It turned out that Mrs. Kiao Da, who had invited Mrs. Shang Juran that day, and she was on the left next to Mrs. Zhu Taiguan, Kui's mother, and to nieces and nephews, Sister Duan and Sister Zheng, Wu Shunshan's daughter-in-law, to prostitutes were called to play and sing in front of the banquet. When I heard that the Yunyang sisters and Wu Dejinzi had arrived, they hurriedly went out to greet them at the front of the ceremony gate and recited the ceremony in the back hall. After Yunyang called her Miss Li Jiar and everyone called her second Miss, third Miss, all following the courtesy of Wu Daguzi. After the ceremony with Shang Juran and Zhu Taiguan's wife, Sister Duan and Sister Zheng came forward to pay their respects. Everyone sat down in turn, the maid handed over the tea, and Kiao Da, who came out to see her and thank her. His wife asked him to go into everyone's room to undress. Then she set a table with tea and invited everyone to sit down and have tea. Nanny Ryer and Huixu were watching the official brother in the room and were left to their own devices. After a while, after having tea, we went to the hall, where the peacocks were spread out. The hibiscus was hidden in the mattress, and for tables and seats were set up in front. Let Yunyang sit in the first place, followed by Lady Shang Juran, Lady Wu Dajin, Lady Zhu Taiguan, Li Jiar, Meng Yulu, Pan Jinlian, Li Ping'er, Lady Kiao Dahu, sitting at the closed banquet, with a table next to it. Sister Dwen and Sister Jung, 11 in total. Two prostitutes sang nearby. After the soup and rice were served, the cook came up and offered the first dish of crystal goose. And Yunyang was rewarded with 2 coins. The second dish was to eat the rotten fire praise hoof. And the moon girl was rewarded with another 1 coin. And the third dish was roasted duck. Yunyang rewarded me with another 1 penny of silver. Mrs. Kiao-da, who came down to hand the wine, passed it to Yunyang, and then handed it to Mrs. Shangjuran. Yunyang came down and went to the back room to change clothes and smooth her face. Meng Yulu also followed, and when he arrived at Kiao-dahu's wife's bedroom, she saw Ryer, the nurse, guarding Brother Guan, lying on the kang with a small mattress. His newborn eldest sister was also lying next to him. You to hit me, and I hit yours for playing. When he met Yunyang and Yulu, he liked them very much and said, they do really get along well with each other. I saw Wu Dejinzi coming in and said, Dejinzi, come and see, these 2 young couples look alike. Dejinzi smiled and said, that's right. Every time the child is on the kang, he opens his hands and kicks his feet. You hit me, and I hit you. It's a small marriage for a couple to play tricks. Mrs. Kiao-dahu and all the guests came into the room. Wu Dejinzi said so. Mrs. Kiao-dahu said, listen, dear relatives, how dare you, a young family member, to live in the house of an eldest girl like me? Yunyang said, it's easy for me to tell you. My sister-in-law, who is my sister-in-law, who is third sister Jung, I love you. Even my son can't humiliate your young lady. Why do you say this? Yulu pushed Li Pinger and said, Sister Li, what do you say? Li Pinger just laughed. Wu Jinzi said, I am annoyed when Kiao's family refuses to comply. Both Shangjuran's wife and Shu Tuiguan's wife said, it's hard to show kindness to the Wu family. Please excuse yourself from the Kiao family. Because he asked, did your eldest sister give birth in November last year? Yunyang said, my son was born on June 23rd. He was originally 5 months older, so he is exactly the same child as a couple. The crowd couldn't help but pulled Kiao-dahu's wife, Yunyang, and Li Pinger, to the front hall, and the 2 of them cut off their shirts. Two prostitutes played and sang. Zhuan told Kiao-dahu, took out the fruit box and 3 sections of red wine and handed him the wine. Yunyang told Diane and Kintong to go home quickly and tell Simon Kang. He carried 2 jars of wine, 3 bolts of satin, red and green velvet gold flowers, and 4 large Luodian fruit boxes. In front of the 2 banquets, red wine is hung and wine is eaten on one side of the hall. There are candles held high, lanterns bright. Musk, Yunai, and joy and laughter hurried to prostitutes, with their red lips parted and white teeth exposed. Gently plucked their jade strings, held their peepo at an angle and sang. The guests, Wu Yunyang, Mrs. Kiao-dahu, and Li Pinger all had flowers and red hairpins on their hair, and wine was handed to them, and everyone bowed. Let's sit down and drink at the banquet again. The cook served a snowflake cake stuffed with the Chinese character longevity and a lotus soup. Yunyang sat on the table, full of joy, and called Diane to come over and reward her with a big red horse, and the cook. Each of the 2 prostitutes is a horse. They all kowtowed in thanks. Mrs. Kiao-dahu didn't let go and stayed in the back hall, where she placed many dishes and boxes of fine fruits. Round the time of the first watch, Yunyang and others came back after saying goodbye and said, in-laws, please come down and sit down in the humble house tomorrow. Mrs. Kiao-dahu said, my in-laws are so kind to me, I'm afraid it won't be easy to sit down at the banquet. I'll go see my in-laws some other time, Yunyang said. Good in-laws, no one else. The in-laws are just outsiders, because he left the eldest daughter behind. He said, if you don't go today, come back with Kiao's family tomorrow. Dajinzi said, my in-laws, Kiao, why don't you go on other days? On the 15th, it's your in-law's birthday. Why don't you go too? Mrs. Kiao-dahu said, it's a great day for my in-laws on the 15th. How dare I not go? Go. Yunyang said, if the in-laws don't go, I will leave it to you. Dog Yuzi, only on you. So, Life and Death left Doc Yuzi behind, and then made a speech and got on the sedan chair. The 2 platoon troops at the front were holding the big red lanterns. The 2 young men behind were holding 2 lanterns. Wu Yunyang is in the head, Li Jiar, Meng Yulu, Pan Jinlian and Li Ping'er are in the middle, followed by Ryer and Wixu. In the sedan chair, Brother Guan was wrapped up in a small red silk quilt, fearing the cold, and there was a copper stove under his feet. The boys followed on both sides. When they got off the sedan at the door of their house, Simon King was having a drink in the upper room. Yunyang waited for everyone to come in, said long blessings, and sat down. All the maids came and kowtowed. Yunyang first told her what she wanted to get married at today's banquet. After hearing this, Simon King asked, "How many guests are there at the banquet today?" Yunyang said, "There are Madame Shang Juren, Madame Zhuzubin, Chu Weikin's mother, and 2 nieces." Simon King said, "It's just a marriage, but I just don't want to move with you." Yunyang said, "My sister-in-law, on the other hand, saw her newly adopted eldest sister, and our child sleeping on the bed, both covered by the quilt. You hit me, and I'll hit you. It's just a young couple. My son was like a child, so he called us and said that we were about to get up. We couldn't help but make this marriage at the banquet. I just sent the servant to tell you that I brought the red fruit box to you." Simon King said, "It's just a marriage, but I just don't want to move in with you. Although the Kiao family has this family affair, he is just a man in white from a big family in the county. Now you and I have this official living in the office, and he is in charge of things in the government office. Tomorrow during the wedding banquet, he is wearing a little hat. How can he get along with me, a government official? It's very indecent." Just the day before yesterday, Zhang's family in Jingnan Gandyang and Yingli repeatedly rushed to marry me, saying that my young lady is only 5 months old now and is the same age as our child. I thought he had no mother and was born in the same room, so I didn't accept him. I didn't want to get married to his family. Pan Jinlian took it from the side and said, "Is it true that others were raised in the house, but who was raised outside the house? Even the child of the Kiao family was born in the house. It was the Taoist god of Xian who bumped into the birthday boy. You don't think I'm tall, and I won't think you're short either." After Simon King heard this, he was furious and cursed. "You thief and whore, why don't you get over here? People are talking here." But they also interrupt. "What can you say?" Jin Lian turned red with embarrassment and walked away. He came out and said, "Who said that I have a place here? You know I don't have a place here." The judge heard that Pan Jinlian was at the banquet today and saw Yunyang getting married to Mr. Kiao. And Li Ping'er was wearing red hairpins and flowers and passing the wine. She was very angry. Simon King scolded her for these 2 things. He became more and more anxious and went to Yunyang's side of the room to cry. Simon King asked, "Why doesn't Dog Yuzi come?" Yunyang said, "Kiao's mother-in-law will see all the officials and ladies tomorrow and can't say why she can't come. I'll leave him there and teach him to come with him tomorrow." Simon King said, "I said it's hard to get along with each other at this table. How can we meet tomorrow?" After replying, Meng Yulu also came to the room. Seeing Jin Liang crying, he said, Why are you just worried? Just let him say a few words." Jin Liang said, "You were listening. Why did I say bad things about him?" He said that the other family raised the children in the room, and I said the Kiao family raised the children outside the room. They were also born in the room. That paper bag, how come you can hide it from others? A thief never meets a strong man. So he opened his eyes and scolded me. The scolder was so ruthless and righteous. Why didn't I tell him? He changed his mind and taught him to repay me tomorrow. In my eyes, how big a child is, a piece oak seed in one's arms. It's nothing to do with the in-laws. Those who have money have nowhere to show it. They fight for the sheets and have no cover. The dog bites the urine cells. It's all joy. Now it's okay to be a wet in-laws. Tomorrow don't think it's difficult to get married when you're married. If you blow the killing lamp and wink, you won't be able to see what happens next. When you get married, people are nice, but only one will be fine after 3 to 5 years, Yulu said. Nowadays, people are also thieves. I don't want to do this business. It's too early to talk about it. Why should I cut off my shirt for a newly raised child? It's just to hang out with me and play tricks. Jin Lian said, "You just want to try to win over your relatives, and then you will scold me for being a thief and a strong man who doesn't agree with you." Yulu said, "Who taught you to speak out without making a fuss? Doesn't he scold you and call you a dog?" Jin Lian said, "It's hard for me to say. He is not the eldest wife in the house, but the eldest wife in the house. He is the child of the Kiao family. He is the housewife. It's because of the old man Kiao's anger. Your family has lost its hometown, and you don't know whose son it is." After hearing this, Yulu was speechless. After sitting for a while, Jin Lian returned to her room. When Li Ping'er saw Simon King coming out, she kowtowed to Yunyang again and said, "I don't want my sister to worry about the child today." The Yunyang smiled, turned around and returned the bow, saying, "Are you happy?" Li Ping'er said, "I share the joy with my sister." After prostrating, he got up and sat talking with Yunyang and Li Jiar. I saw Sun Zui and the eldest sister coming to kowtow to Yunyang and wishing Li Jiao and Li Ping'er good luck. Xiao Yu brought tea and was having tea when she saw Zhu Chun, the maid in Li Ping's room, coming to invite her and said, "Brother, I'm looking for you in the room. Father asked me to invite my mother here." Li Ping'er said, "My grandma was so panicked that she carried her into the house without knowing it. It's just a ride. I'm afraid the baby won't have a light." Yunyang said, "Enter the door first and go to the room where I asked him to hold me. I'm afraid it's too late." Xiao Yu said, "Ryer is holding him. Lianer is holding a lantern to send him off." Li Ping'er said, "That's all." So she said goodbye to Yunyang and returned to her room. I saw Simon King in the room, and Brother Guan fell asleep in his arms. Because he said, "Why did you hug him without telling me?" Ryer said, "When the aunt saw Anna carrying a lantern, she took advantage of the lantern to come. My brother cried a little and then patted him to sleep." Simon King said, "He fell asleep after looking for it this time." After Li Ping'er finished speaking, she looked at him and said with a smile, "I'm engaged to my child today. I'm going to kowtow for you because I'm tired of you." Therefore, the candle seems to be knocked down. Simon King, who liked it, was all smiles and quickly pulled him up to sit down. One side ordered Yingxin to put down the wine, and the two of them drank. Let's talk about Pan Jinlian go into the room to show off her temper. She knew Simon King was with Li Ping'er. Because Qiu Ju opened the door late, she slapped her ears twice when she entered and cursed loudly, "Thief, whore, slave. Why can't you open the door after calling me for a whole day? What are you doing? I won't answer you." So he went inside and sat down. Chun Mai came and kowtowed and handed tea. The woman asked him, "What is he doing in the house? A thief slave." Chun Mai said, "Sit down in the yard." I pressed him, but he didn't pay attention. The woman said, "I know that he and I are both angry. Even though Deng Taiwei eats banquets, he also behaves like others and still bullies me." When he was about to beat him, he was afraid that Simon King would hear him. He said nothing and was angry. While taking off her heavy makeup, Chun Mai made a bed with him, went to bed and fell asleep. The next day, I went to Simon King Yamen. The woman asked Qiu Ju to kneel in the courtyard with a large pillar on his head. Kneeling, he combed his hair, asked Chun Mai to pull off his pants, and tried to hit him with a big paddle. Chun Mai said, "You are such a clean servant. You asked me to pull off my pants, but my hands were so dirty." She walked to the front and asked the painting boy to pull off Qiu Ju's clothes. The woman hit him and scolded him, "Thief, slave and whore, since when did you become so big? Others like you, but I don't like you. Sister, you know what I see, so you just keep it wet. It's all for nothing. You boss, why are you trying to be strong? Sister, don't lean on me. I'll be watching you until tomorrow." He cursed and hit Qiu Ju again and again, and the beating made Qiu Ju look like she was killing a pig. Call. Li Ping'er had just gotten up and was watching her breasts. She sent Guangir to sleep and woke up again. She clearly heard Jin Lian beating the maid and scolding the maid for a reason. But she didn't say a word and was so bluffing that she only held the officer's ears. At the same time, he told Xu Chun, "Go and tell your fifth mother to stop playing Qiu Ju. I just ate some milk and fell asleep." After Jin Lian heard this, she beat Qiu Ju even harder and scolded, Thief slave, you have 10,000 knives on your body. This is called mercy. I am a stubborn person. The more you scream, the more I beat. I will do it for you, interrupting passers-by. They are beating girls, and they are here to look at you. Good sister, tell the man, please stop me from changing. Li Ping'er clearly heard that it was him who was scolding her, and her hands turned cold. Swallow your anger. Dare to be angry, but dare not speak. I didn't have any tea in the morning, so I hugged brother Guan and fell asleep on the kang. When I returned home from JinPingMei, I went into the room to see the official brother. I saw Li Ping'er crying and sleeping on the kang with red eyes, and asked, "Why don't you comb your hair? Please go up to the room and talk to me. Why are your eyes so red when you rub them?" Li Ping'er didn't mention anything about Jin Lian's accusations, but only said, "I feel uncomfortable." JinPingMei said, "The birthday gift for you is here from Qiao's family. A ruler, 2 jars of nanju, a plate of longevity peaches, a plate of longevity noodles, for kinds of food to go with it. There are 2 more plates for the festival from my brother. Lantern Festival, for plates of sweet meats, for plates of fine fruits, to chandeliers with hanging beads, to sheepskin screen lamps, to pieces of red official satin, of blue satin. Lizai golden 8 auspicious hat, to pairs of men's shoes, 6 a pair of women's shoes. We haven't even gone to his place yet, but he has already come with our children to celebrate. Now, please go and take care of it." He sent Mrs. Kong and Qiao Tong to escort the gift. Da Jinzi came first, saying that Qiao's mother-in-law would not be able to come tomorrow, and would not come until the day after tomorrow. Mrs. Qiao Wu, who is a royal relative in his family, really liked it when she heard that we were getting married. On the 15th, she will also come for a walk. We must add a post and invite you. After hearing this, Li Ping'er slowly got up and combed her hair, walked behind, and paid homage to Da Kuizi. Kong's sister-in-law was waiting for tea in Yunyang's room. The gifts were placed in the open room and everyone looked at them. While sending the boxes back, he got up, gave Kong's sister-in-law and Qiao Tong the handkerchiefs and 5 coins each, and wrote a reply. Exactly. But the bells and drums are used for joy and love, so that the dogs and sheep will be ashamed of the country. There is poetry to prove it. Simon was so arrogant that he was the only rich man, so he married an infant child. Not only do you have wealth like dung, but you should also lament those who come after you.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.